Okay, so I watched the third Republican debate, and this one left me feeling kind of, I don't want to say bored, but what ends up happening with a lot of the debates is that when the first one happens, that's when people are like, okay, the primary is actually officially starting now. And the ones after that are a mixture of repetition or someone trying to improve upon their previous performance. So like Tim Scott, for example, the first debate was a complete snooze fest, disappeared. The second and third ones, he's tried to address that lack of energy by being more aggressive, but it's kind of hollow. He's been very good at at being more of Israel senator than the U.S. senator, but I digress. And I would say Ramaswamy had one of my favorite answers about not condoning those that stand with Hamas on college campuses, but still thinking that you shouldn't just throw somebody out of the country for a for an opinion that you don't agree with, even if it is one you would consider radical or extreme or whatever. Um, because that is, I praised him for that position before, but truly, it's not easy to really get one of them to speak in a sort of nuanced manner about a topic. DeSantis was fine. I don't see his polling going up though. I don't really think he did anything that was too stand out. I would actually say him and Christie have this thing where like they have a lane that very obviously they can coast in, right? Christie's the anti-Trump person who probably knows he's not going to win, but still wants to come on there and have like a reason for running. And DeSantis was like the number two person until Haley started stealing his thunder. So what's egregious to me is that in spite of them knowing these things about themselves, there's really no push by either one to maintain that position. Hey, I'm the governor from this big state that used to be blue or purple and now it's all red. And then with Christie, oh, I'm a Democratic. I was in a Democratic state as a Republican governor. You know, and he loves bringing up that he became attorney on September 10th, 2001, which is why I said like watching these, you just keep noticing the same. It's not even like the policy, right? Like, okay, you need to get rid of this, you need to replace this, etc. It's the same anecdotal crap. Oh, I became the attorney thanks to President Bush the day before 9/11. Like, okay, great. Haven't heard this a million times already. So the biggest moment of the night, as far as pundits are really paying attention, is probably the exchange between Haley and Ramaswamy. Um, Haley condemned Ramaswamy for being on TikTok because of its Chinese affiliations. And Ramaswamy pointed out, hey, your daughter used TikTok for years. And now all of a sudden you're against people being able to use it. So Haley seized on that and said, leave my daughter out of this, and referred to if I say Ramaswamy as scum for his comment. And my thing is, again, as someone who's not a fan of really any of these people, I'm inclined to defend Ramaswamy because when he says your daughter also used this app that I'm using, he's not saying her daughter should go to jail, that she's doing something wrong. He's saying, hey, if you're going to stand so much against this app, why is it that someone in your very close immediate family was able to be on here without you expressing the same level of strength? Like, if you're so strong against other people's kids being on here but not your own, you kind of look like a hypocrite. And I think Haley would have been better off just saying, "Hey, I can't control her. She's a grown woman. She can do what she wants." But it's just one of those things where I think the way that he like what he meant versus how it was taken are two different things. Where it wasn't meant to be an attack on her, like your daughter is a Chinese conspirator. No, she's using an app that a lot of other people used, and you're rallying against it, but you weren't apparently able to stop her from using it. So it's one of those things where he's going to be misinterpreted. They're going to use this to pounce on him. He did have one of my favorite lines, which is that Haley is Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels. God, they're just. I don't even know what these are anymore. I feel like you probably could say this is part of the debate, the election process. But really, at this point, who do we have? We have Trump with a 30-point lead over everybody else, and people who are 20 points behind him, 30 points behind him, 40 points behind him are competing with each other for the number two spot. And then even if they get the number two spot, they're still going to probably be 10, 20, 15, however many points. So it all just seems like, the ratings, I haven't heard about it, what exactly they are, but for people that aren't tuning in, I can't really say I blame them. What's the point of watching a presidential debate where the front runner by a very wide margin isn't even going? They're gonna have another one in, I believe, Alabama next month. I'm not excited for that. Scott is extremely boring. Christie is not utilizing the role that he should have as the anti-Trump person. DeSantis keeps finding a way to make himself less and less important. Haley is like, she's rising, but I mean, whatever. Only so much rising you can do at a certain point. And Ramaswamy is receding quite a bit. I think these debate performances have probably been the weakest part of his campaign. Just from the way that he was gone after by Haley during each one, and it always seems as if she goes up and up. I don't think that this has been a good. I'm not gonna say I know he did at one point volunteer the idea of skipping debates. I think if anyone has a stake in doing that, he probably would, but that's not Trump. He probably could have the biggest case of like, hey, every time I go here, you guys are antagonistic. I'm not really getting asked anything that allows me to play to my strengths. It just seems really unfair. He could probably say something to that effect. But yeah, I can't. I think out of the three, this was probably the one I liked the least. And it's amazing how they had so fewer people. Like each debate, less and less people. This one only 5. And I still have a hard time remembering anything Scott said. He's such a waste of space. Honestly, I'll be surprised if he makes it to Iowa. Pence was polling higher than him and he got out, so I think Scott should do the same thing. I think the next debate should either be 3 people or at a maximum 4 people. But even then, Christie is like, he's making it harder and harder for me to support him being part of this process. Like if you're going to run a campaign that is not going to make it, at the very least stand for something. Like he should have brought up Trump's criminal charges. He should have mentioned none of these people are willing to criticize him. Like just a waste. So they're all going down the tube except Haley, and even then she's still her ability to surge is affected by the other ones being in the race. So it for those that skipped it, you really weren't missing that much. And I don't like saying that because I think debates can be useful when candidates are asked direct questions and they answer things and talk to each other. But these have not been helpful to the democratic process at all.